News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNM. We're back here on the Yaffee program. Quick reminder, as always, if you missed any of the show live, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com. One person said, so Walker had it in her What's Trending, that Chick-fil-A for going to have the special where they're giving away chicken biscuits. And I said, no, I got to have a spicy chicken biscuit. And someone said, no, get the regular one on the text line. They said, just put buffalo sauce on the chicken biscuit. It's the same. And I don't think so. I don't know if that, it's cooked really, on the spicy one, it's cooked really nice into the chicken. I don't know if it'll be the same.
Can I say that I agree?
With me or?
With you, yes.
But, if it's free, maybe I'll I'll do that just this once, just so it's free. Now, another person, earlier on, we were talking about that story where in Alabama, they're trying to pass a bill to make it a felony to interrupt a place of worship like those protesters, those agitators, those left-wing activists did in Minneapolis, and Don Lemon with them. One person said, my only concern, what if someone is at a church service and calls out the pastor for preaching something other than the word? Like saying the angel gave Mary a choice in order to be supportive of abortion. Now, I will say this. One, I think there's a time and place to call a pastor for not giving the right word. If you're just standing up and screaming at the pastor during the service because you disagree, no, stand up and leave and try to make changes. But, I don't think that's... I find it I don't think that's happening a lot. And two, I find it very difficult to believe that this law would have much of an impact on that. Now, one thing we do have to talk about, I was talking about a spiritual battle. Also part of the spiritual battle is the issue with transgenderism, the radical transgender ideology. Well, there's a story recently that shows that, we need to be concerned. Mostly for kids, but also adults that are going through this so-called transgender process. Because instead of treating it like a mental disorder for a lot of these people, we're acting like it's normal, and then we pump up full of hormones, all this other stuff, and it causes more problems. So I want to read this from Noah Rothman at the National Review. He says, 2 more trans killers carry out atrocities. There are dots here that should be connected. He says, we have been confronted this week by 2 unspeakable but familiar atrocities in nearly as many days. A high school hockey match in Rhode Island erupted in chaos on Monday when 56-year-old Robert Dorgan, also known as Roberta Esposito, opened fire on his estranged family. Dorgan targeted his ex-wife and 3 children, as well as a family friend who was watching the game before he turned his gun on himself. Now, the children's mother died at the scene. One of Dorgan's children passed away at the hospital. 3 more victims remain in critical condition, which is horrific. Dorgan was described by a family member as being very sick with mental health issues, his gender dysphoria being just one of them. He had narcissistic and personality disorder traits. And Noah Rothman continues. He said, this attack follows the Valentine's Day massacre of 8 in British Columbia, Canada, including the shooter's own mother and his 11-year-old half-brother, before he shot himself. The New York Post also covered that. Noah Rothman says these are dots that should be connected. Some will focus on the 2 shooters' depressive self-obsession, which manifested first in other ways with graphic violence. But he says an obsession with violence is one clear through line in these cases. So too are the telltale expressions of mental illness that precede these violent outbursts. These killers take inspiration from the murderers that came before them. Rupnow and Westman were captivated by acts of violence they sought to imitate. But Noah Rothman continues on. But a transgender identity has also become an unmistakable warning sign for all those who brave enough to recognize it as one, regardless of the social stigma that surrounds acknowledging the evidence of your own eyes. This week's killers join a growing list of trans-identifying shooters or killers who were steeped in the milieu of transgender activism. Kirk's shooter, Charlie Kirk, was adjacent to that culture. He lived and was romantically involved with a male transitioning to a female. The activist left and their House organs are quick to accuse those of noticing this disturbing trend of attempting to falsely portray all transgender people as prone to mental illness and violence. It's hardly the most pressing concern facing society amid a rise in incidents of murderous violence, but it's a valid rejoinder. The violent are few in number, and they tend not to be representative of whatever communities they once inhabited. The violently mentally ill are, however, drawn to a variety of pathologies. It seems they are particularly attracted to those that dominate the national discourse at any given moment and generate attention for their alleged sufferers. He says perhaps transgenderism is its own mental illness. Possibly, he said it's not necessarily connected, but he says pretending this phenomenon isn't happening or has been overblown by bigots and political opportunists won't make it go away. It must be confronted with the courage to do so. So his overall point is this. A lot of those in the propaganda press ignored this fact. They don't want to connect the dots. But mentally ill people are now using this transgenderism as a cover for their mental illness. I mean, that's part of the problem. Now, I am one who believes that gender dysphoria is a mental illness by its nature. You're talking about a problem in the head, in the mind, believing you're a different sex. I mean, sorry, if you're not a different sex, but you believe you're a different sex, that is a mental disorder by its very definition. But beyond that, what's happening is those who are already mentally ill are attracted to this narrative, and then they go down this road. And then when people react to it, they get even more violent. So the point is, when you connect the dots here, you got to look at some warning signs. You got to look at some red flags. But once the red flag of transgenderism comes up, a lot of people are unwilling to look at it because they're afraid of being called a bigot or whatever. And this becomes a problem because when you're unwilling to look at real mental illness in people that could be a danger to themselves and those around them, then you have more acts of violence that could have been stopped ahead of time. So unfortunately, though, our culture is such a way, I think it's changing. The vibe has shifted on this issue. Definitely has, especially with children, but overall. But you have a lot of people that aren't going to be willing to do anything to address the issue of someone's mental illness because all of a sudden they've claimed that they're trans, and if you even address that as a part of the mental illness, you are called a bigot. Which is absurd, but that becomes a problem. So people are unwilling to address the issue, and so these transgender people who are mentally ill act out in violence. And unfortunately, until we are really willing to address this, it's going to keep happening. It has kept happening. It's scary, frankly. It's scary. I'm not saying every person who claims to be transgender would react violently, but the fact is now they're using that as a cover. Those who are violently mentally ill, a lot of them, for some reason, are attracted to this transgender radical nonsense, and that has been used as a cover so we don't address their mental health issues. Just another reason why this issue actually does matter in the big scheme of things, despite what Democrats on the left say. Appreciate you listening to the show. If you missed any of it live, the podcast is up on the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere you get your podcast. The Vince Show is coming up next, and I'll be back tomorrow at the same time. See you then.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Start your day with the morning jolt of Drake C. Toll.
You've never been a football coach before, so you're not allowed to talk about this. No, I can have burnt mozzarella sticks and say, the chef's not working.
Then Black and Abdallah.
Adam Abdallah.
That's what we do. We rank
Shots
quarterbacks.
fired.
Okay.
And Westwood One Sports Night caps it all off.
I don't know how they're going to win, but they're going to win. We're open all night here on Westwood One.
Westwood One Sports Talk. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
This isn't your average podcast.
This is one of the most, if not the most controversial podcasts.
This is Full Send.
Do you like party ever?
I think Post Malone told me once he went to like one of your parties.
What was the biggest after party you guys ever did?
We had one with you guys.
I know,
that
was
lit.
Unfiltered conversations.
I'm not going to say any names, but we got Dr. Phil pulling up.
Jake Paul's coming in today.
Benjamin Netanyahu. He's about to walk into the podcast right now.
I feel like he'd leave.
Yeah, maybe.
The Full Send podcast.
This is so crazy.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.